Everyone ready? Cool. Thank you for coming over, guys. I really appreciate it, especially if the half of the underground is shut down right now, still. Let me introduce myself first. I'm the principal architect here in Natalik for DC. My name is Matthias Prokop, and we try to organize some, special event where we're going to bring all our clients together and we're going to be presenting what we're actually doing in a DC, because what we are trying to do for the last year in Natalik is to sort of give it a little bit more structure in what we are doing in the DC area and grow it a little bit more. I think we're pretty successful so far, and we're really excited what the future brings in a DC to Natalik. I've asked Haley to sort of organize something, different. We didn't want to do some long presentations, where you're usually falling asleep and it's just boring stuff, about what has been introduced lately. So Haley came with the idea to do Pecha Kucha presentations. It's coming from Japan. It's a very unique sort of format how to do the presentations. It's the 20 slides per each 20 seconds. Yes. So overall, it's going to be 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Yeah. Yes, my math is on spot. So today we have our great partners presenting about their products. After the presentation, they will be available around. So feel free to come over, ask questions, either me, I don't know anything, or ask the vendor directly. They know much more than I do. We have Cisco in here. We have the AppDynamics. We have the Turbonomic, Pure Storage, Cisco DevNet, and then we have Adam. Where we have Adam from Natalik, right there at the back. He will be sort of presenting what we're preaching in here. Many of you I've already met. Every time we sort of kind of proposing something from the DC, we're talking about what we're using internally and what we're proposing to the other clients and our clients using as well. So Adam will show what we're doing internally with our Natalik platform, how we leveraging most of these vendors in our portfolio and our platform. So I think over to you. No, who's Cisco's first? Sorry, Max. Sorry. Over to you. Yeah, I think you need to press the button, and then it's gonna start.
Oh, you got it? No, because that first slide's just a holding slide, so.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah. I'll click it off.
Okay,
so good evening. My name is Neil Trevains. Some know me as Chief Storyteller, others as the Principal Evangelist. I don't like Chief Storyteller. Chief Bullshit Officer at one point, but that got canned. I spend my time talking to customers about their strategy and partners about their strategy when it comes to our data center and multi-cloud portfolio. I am renowned for talking way beyond the time that's allocated to me. So 6 minutes and 40 seconds is unheard of. So we'll give it a go and see how it pans out. Digital transformation is the buzzword of the day. It's a book written by a lady who runs IBM's digital transformation practice. She thinks that this word is a jargon term now, okay, in the same way that arguably cloud could be seen as that. But it is the major disrupting factor that is happening in the vast majority of our customer organisations, regardless of size. Now this picture, this black and white picture, might seem slightly odd when we're talking about digital transformation. This is actually the first example of a business application. This is 1951, November, J. Lyons Coffee Houses, valuation of their bakery products, and they built that computer. So digital transformation is not something new. It's something that's been going on for a long time. But as Bob Dylan said, the times they are a-changing, because now we're in the realms of the pace of change accelerating. McKinsey's call it the world of perpetual evolution, both for our organisations and for IT that supports that. And four of the kind of causal factors of that are this idea of the application of elastic cloud computing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and analytics, and IoT. Those four things, Thomas Siebel wrote a book recently called Digital Transformation, those four things are critical. But they still have to run somewhere. And our world is gaining an increasing level of complexity. We used to build out bricks and mortar data centers. We might own them, we might take them as colo. We deliver things on bare metal and virtual machines. Our world was still relatively complex, but not as complicated as this. This is the world of hybrid IT, where we're on-prem and off-prem. That could be a managed service provider, a cloud service provider, a hyperscaler, whoever it might be. And now we're dealing with bare metal virtual machines, containers, and functions as a service, serverless, Lambda. On top of that, our application landscape has got a lot more complicated as well. So we're moving from the world of monolithic applications to distributed applications, to the rise of microservices. Finally, the idea of functions as a service. We're consuming APIs from third parties to bring that customer experience to the best that it can be. And this is the critical factor. This is the critical lens that everything has to be seen through. Yeah? And a customer is somebody inside our organisation and it's somebody outside our organisation. We should not differentiate between the two. We're loyal to that experience. We're not loyal to the brand. So what do we have to do in IT? We need to industrialise the world of IT in terms of how we build out the production lines and the execution venues that support the workloads that drive that customer experience. This is not something that we would typically do. We think in IT we know better than everybody else. We also think that the answer to industrialising IT is purely to automate things, to drive things through automation and orchestration. Well, that's garbage in and that's garbage out. Yeah, it's just we're going to make that process a lot faster. Okay, that in and of itself is not enough. So what's the question we should be asking? The question we should be asking is what I'm about to embark upon, is what I'm about to do actually going to push that customer experience forward in a positive way? There are some things we have to do, legal compliance things, but for the most aspects of this, we should be thinking about how can I analyse what that customer experience looks like? So this is the world of App Dynamics. How can I analyse the platform that underpins that? And am I being able to deliver the best experience based on that? It's Turbonomic. And can I drive that application from its underpinnings, which is our technology and our partners like Pure? We need to do this based on evidence. It can't be on gut feel anymore. We can't take the words of an independent software vendor or our own developers, add a little fudge factor to it and think that that's going to be adequate, because that is moving too fast. So we need to learn. First and foremost, this is the most critical aspect. We can't just view this from an engineer's perspective. We have to look at this from a customer experience perspective. What does that business transaction look like? How are the resources that are underpinning that, whether they're on-prem or off-prem, behaving? Once we've learnt that, we need to adapt. We need to drive things through APIs. We need to drive things through software. Human latency is the principal cause of dissatisfaction when it comes to customer experience. We take too long to build things. We're also not great at scaling or doing repeatable things. And if that world is constantly changing, and I'm using a whole raft of different execution venues, then how do I secure that? I can't go and touch this now. The boundary of my world is something I can't see. So I need to shrink the perimeter from a castle wall down to a close protection officer, a bodyguard. And then I'm going to steal something, as we do in IT, from somewhere else. I'm going to put this into a feedback loop. And I'm going to continue to iterate this. The only way I can do that is to apply artificial intelligence, machine learning, machine intelligence to be able to do that. I can't do that as a human being. That would be one hell of a spreadsheet. Because this is the key. Now, they're not having a great time at the moment, which is, it hurts me. But this is about innovation, the pace of innovation. These guys will innovate within the space of one race weekend. They're already working on next season's car. It's the pace of innovation that is critical to maintaining us at the forefront of that customer experience. Because Klaus Schwab, who is the founder and the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, said at a World Government Summit that the world is now not the big fish eating the little fish. Those days are gone. Cisco acquired vast numbers of companies over its time. Now it's the fast fish that's eating the slow fish. And the key to being able to do that is to innovate faster, but there's no point in innovating for the sake of innovating. We need to understand what our customer is experiencing, and that's what some of the other things you're going to hear about tonight are all about. Bang on, there we go, done.
What an act to follow! My God. Okay, so are we going? 1, 3, 2. Great. So I'm Justin Vaughan Brown from AppDynamics here. Thanks for the call out and the mention. That's wonderful. We're here today because we're passionate about the application experience, and that's super, super important to us. It's super important to Natalie. It's super important to everyone here who's been invited. What I'm going to do is take you through, very, very high level, what we do, the pains we address, and then please come to our booth and talk more. So a little bit about us. We work with some of the biggest names and brands that you will know very, very well: Vodafone, BMW, Carhartt, and so forth. And all of these companies are working with us to help try and meet the application performance bar that's been set by the trendsetters, the leaders, the Googles, the Ubers, the Facebooks of this world, who've set the bar for the consumer experience in terms of what people want to look for. Now, anyone know what 250 milliseconds is? That's how long it takes for the human eye to blink. It's also how long it takes Google to return a search result. And that's what we become conditioned to as human beings. That's the speed we're expecting of an application. If it's slow, it's going to cause issues. And issues are happening because, well, many reasons. First of all, obviously, going back to this earlier session there, we're experiencing now the latest generation in terms of our evolution in terms of technology. Cloud microservices. We don't own environments. They're owned by other companies. They're federated. They're spread out. They're sprawling. And it's very, very hard to understand exactly what's happening. It's very, very, very complicated. We can have multiple cloud environments. We can have on-premise. We can have SAP. We can have mainframe here with IBM. Good God, it's super complex. It's almost a miracle that an application even works in the first place. Absolutely just impenetrable here. And it's made even more complicated because now people are expecting the application to work brilliantly, even if it's on a mobile, even if it's through a serial voice or an Apple Watch. They don't really care about this complexity that lies beneath. All they care is that the app needs to work because I'm time poor, I want it to work in this exact moment, and if it doesn't, I'll go to another brand or I'll complain about it on Twitter. And the errors that they experience aren't just maybe now an application crashing, it's just slow. You heard about speed, it's all about speed now. When you've got this spinning wheel of doom, that causes huge frustration and people get annoyed and they start taking it out by going to the competitor, simple as. So that's a huge, huge issue. And that has two kinds of impact. One, it costs money fixing. From an internal IT perspective, it's cost huge amounts of money to address those issues. The biggest one though is that it costs you as a business because you're losing revenue every single second. I don't know exact Amazon revenue numbers, but 1% of their sales is approximately quite a lot. And behind the scenes, you've got this complete chaos here with the IT war room. We've all pretty much experienced this here, where you've got multiple monitoring tools. People are blaming each other. They're using their particular monitoring tools to prove it wasn't them. It's what we call mean time to innocence. And they're doing this finger pointing all the time, whilst in parallel, well, we've got the business who've just launched a new product or offering, and they're saying, what the heck's going on? You know, we had great hopes for this, we've invested massive, why isn't the revenue coming in? Now, it may be that the new product or solution they're offering is actually really crap. Could be, but it could be the application performance, it could just simply be slow, and that's the big issue. But ultimately, it's impacting the bottom line, massive problem. And it could be down to a database issue, it could be down to a server problem, it could be down to, as often, configuration change. You know, rarely it could be the network. Be careful what the audience here. It's never the network. But it could be a myriad of things, multiple things that are happening and reasons why it's going wrong, and how the heck do you actually decipher where that problem lies. So at AppDynamics, we're all about taking the customer perspective, following what they want to do. Everyone, when they engage with an application, they do it with an end purpose in mind, an end result. I want to log in, I want to process a payment, I want to buy a book, I want to order some clothes, I want to check my bank statement. You all do it with that purpose, and that's the lens through which we look at an application, what you're actually trying to achieve by that. And what we do is we tag, trace, and follow every transaction. We give each component and section of that application a unique identifier. So we measure the latency between each of these. We then follow that all the way through, right the way through to the whole transaction. We can trace and zoom in as to the actual source or reason for a problem taking place. And we build up this whole customer journey here, and we can track this all the way through every single unique customer transaction that they're trying to do around the world. We can drill into so you can discover exactly what has happened with that unique customer, because some customers are worth more than others. Platinum customers, they're on the phone, you don't want to lose them, but we can drill in to understand exactly what's happened. And we do that through an agent-based approach, lightweight, where we sit and deploy it across your network and understand exactly what is happening, and we're able to, simple color code here, guess what red means? It's not good. So what we do is we have that early warning system where we can detect if an issue is going to happen before it happens, so you can fix it ahead of the customer being impacted. And just some wider context, we heard about AI, absolutely agree with that. You've now got a vast number of applications, a vast number of complexities that you're dealing with, multiple petabytes of data that you're having to manage over time, and humans simply can't do that alone. We simply aren't conditioned to be able to address all these issues. So just following what was mentioned earlier, we need to look at AI ops. We need to look at how we can use artificial intelligence and machine learning to automate those boring tasks that we simply can't achieve on our own. We need to automate, but in an intelligent way. And our vision for this is based around what we call the central nervous system. Pretty much like the body interacts with stimuli, visibility, getting insights into what's happening within your infrastructure, your network and security, feeding that in and making sense of it and taking appropriate action. So I came over from the office nearby, it was raining, I got wet, I put my jacket on. That's exactly how our central nervous system functions. And I'm just going to kind of wrap up with one of my favorite quotes. This is from Okta, pretty much analogizing that App Dynamics is a little bit like kind of Google Maps. It helps take you through the application process and trace all the way through each stage and intelligently inform you as to what's happening and where those problems lie. One of my other favorite quotes is that from a leading bank, which was, before App Dynamics, we were paramedics. After App Dynamics, we're brain surgeons. So just approach things so much more intelligently using App Dynamics as you kind of view Google Maps for your infrastructure and your applications. I think that's just about wrapping up, but please come and meet our colleagues, they're over there. We'll give you the full demo. We do have it. It's not just slideware, it really is. So please come and find out more.
You ready?
Yeah, hi guys, I'm going to try and stand here so I can see the screen with the timer. That's my plan. We'll see if it works out. Hi guys. I'm Asim from Terminomic, and I'm going to be talking today about application resource management. Okay, we take a completely different view on the environment. We're looking top-down, application-centric, and we're applying an AI analytic to the environment to drive it to the most performant, efficient state possible. Okay, and that's what we do. So what our customers tell us, and people believe, is that application performance, there's problems, there's slowness, and we just need to accept it. And what we're saying is there's a different approach that allows you to spend less money, drive performance, and achieve your goals. Okay, and relax as well, take some time back. The application stack has become very complex. Okay, we started with virtualization, and we've got cloud, we've also got containers, and we've got APM technologies at the top, and we're writing our own applications. And demand is fluctuating massively. Okay, people want to sit on their iPad in the middle of the night and do things, and we have to cater for that. And the stack lends itself to potential congestion at different points in the stack, which leads to this kind of loading screen. And the problem with this is people are no longer willing to wait. Okay, if your application doesn't load, they will go and use another application. They will go to your competitor, and that's hitting your bottom line. Okay, so that's not something we can contend with. So the analogy we're going to use is roads. Okay, so we've got here crazy congestion. And what we're saying is this kind of congestion is happening in your data center, and it's not because there's not enough resource, it's because that resource is not being managed and allocated correctly. Okay, and there's a more efficient way of doing it. So the way people generally try to solve this initially is by throwing manpower at it. Okay, monitoring tools, point solutions, try and monitor it, and take manual actions to try and resolve that kind of performance problem. And this is not a scalable solution. The other thing we see is over-provisioning. Okay, and we take cloud as an example. We see a lot of people, they set a cloud budget for their year, and then within Q1 they've blown through it. Okay, or on-prem, you just throw more hardware at it, and that's not the solution. Throwing hardware at the problem doesn't make your application faster. It doesn't solve that problem. Okay, So what we're saying is the only way to solve that problem is to consume that data, analyze it, and come up with the most efficient way of resolving it through automated action. So the analogy, continuing with the roads, is Waze. Okay, what's Waze doing? It's looking at traffic jams, it's looking at different routes, it's coming up with the intelligent way of solving that traffic problem, and that's what we're doing to your infrastructure, to your hybrid cloud environment. And the way we do it is to balance that trade-off between performance, cost, and compliance in real time. Performance is the primary objective, cost savings is a byproduct, and compliance is a must. And what our customers generally see are better performance, more compliance, and reduced costs all working together. So this is a real customer example. The top of the stack there is coming from AppDynamics, and from that we're able to measure the performance of the application and the number of business transactions being performed. From the bottom of the stack, we're able to analyze the environment, whether it's on-prem, whether it's cloud, and generate automated actions to drive that environment to the most performance state possible, which results in an improved number of transactions and a reduction in response time. So if we think about this stack, it's become very, very complex. A whole range of different technologies, generally managed in silos, okay, where those teams are not necessarily collaborating as effectively as possible. The only way to pull all that data together in one place is Turbonomic. Okay? So what we're saying is that by using AppDynamics and Turbonomic together is the only way to assure the performance of your applications, from the code all the way down to the infrastructure through these automated actions. In our customer environments, we also see other key technologies like configuration management, change management. We have a full REST API that allows us to integrate with all these different touch points. We're not telling you to change your processes. We can integrate in with your processes and still provide this same sort of value. So we're going to go through a couple of different use cases. The first one is around application provisioning. Okay, what we're able to do is to pull in that data from AppD, understand the available resource, tell you when you need to provision more to scale your applications intelligently to meet the growing demands without overspending and maintaining performance. Okay, so you can see there, generally we see those either over or under allocated. We see a lot of customers now who thought they were going to go fully to the cloud, so there's a lot of 3 to 5 year old hardware out there. We're able to do modeling around Cisco HyperFlex, around UCS blades, around any kind of hardware to help you to understand that hardware refresh. We understand the power of every processor, how much resource is available, and help you model that transformation before you actually do it. In terms of the cloud, so I'm just going to touch on a couple of these. We can help you with sizing correctly, in terms of RI management, in terms of billing, understanding your billing, where that money is going, and automatically drive the cloud environment to the most performant, efficient place possible. Okay. Examples of our customers, so Cisco is a customer of ours, which has led to our OEM agreement, so we can talk about that when you come over to our stand at the back there. We've got a lot of accolades, just to really reinforce the fact that what we're doing is recognized in the industry as the way to manage your IT environment. And I've got a couple of customer examples. So MetLife actually integrated us into AppDynamics, ServiceNow, Tetration, their underlying virtualization platform, and you can see the benefits yourself. So mean time to problem resolution went down massively, reduction in technical time as well. The operations guys were doing less things because of the automation, and a reduction in application latency as well. This is a large accounting firm moving to Azure. Okay, we were able to help them to model out their transformation before they did it, and in the first year, through automated resizing of Azure instances, save $5 million on their cloud bill. Okay, and this is an ongoing thing. We're helping them to save more and more over time. So really what this is about is, with the complexity of the environments now and the stack we've talked about and the problems you guys are facing, Turbonomic is the only way to solve those. Okay, thank you.
I'm also going to stand here so I can see what's next. So, yeah, go for it. Yeah. So I'm Max Brown, been at Pure Storage for nearly 6 years. And I thought I'd start off just very simply with, you've seen these slides from every vendor, right? Data is growing, the world is changing. I think the key thing is data is an asset, right? That is the key thing, and that's what we're in business for, is to make sure that data can be used by their customers in the more efficient method rather than just kind of wasting time with the plumbing. So again, today's challenges, not going to go through them, every customer has them. The key bit here is this data-centric approach, right? Of all the software, the hardware and the solutions that we all sell to customers as vendors, the only thing that matters is the data. That's why people buy software, hardware licenses. If we can come up with an environment that enables customers to focus on their data, not on keeping the lights on, then this is going to add value. And again, second time Mercedes have come up today. So these guys have value. To give you an idea of what these guys did, they take 2 full racks of storage, not ours, to every race. They've now replaced that with 2 3U units of storage. Track time analysis went down from 10 minutes to 4 minutes. Gives them a genuine competitive advantage over the other competition. But who are Pure? If you've heard of SAT metrics, one of the best measurements in the industry of how likely a customer is to recommend Pure to somebody else, we're 86.6. Industry average in tech is 24. For the storage guys, it's sub 20. We've got 6,500 customers. We're increasing 30% year on year. Founded on 3 core principles, right? Things have got to be simple. If there's any storage admin guys in the room, I apologise, but it's not a career anymore. That's just a task. But how easy is it? We don't have training courses. You want everything automated. And from a support perspective, don't call us. We'll call you. And it just works. It just has to work, right? So we don't have a training course because there's no knobs, there's no darts, there's no tuning, there's no tweaking. It's predictably predictable. You know that it will perform with whatever you're doing to it. So whether I've got to do a hardware upgrade, a firmware upgrade, if I've had a failure, it continues to run at the same performance. And don't waste money, right? Nobody wants to waste money. Have you ever bought a piece of hardware and then after 3 years or 5 years, your support contract is expensive or you buy a new piece of kit? We don't do that at Pure. When you buy a Pure array, we will never sell you another one to replace it. In fact, we will actually make it better over time. We don't have any software licensing. Everything is included. And because of these features and kind of some of the core principles, customers absolutely adore what we do. And all of our customers are referenceable. Investec, for example, went from having a slow SQL database to putting in Pure 4 times as many fund managers. Mentioned Mercedes F1, they also use this for computational fluid dynamics, so they're going to design a better chassis than they've ever done. And this is one of the things around what we call evergreen storage. Our support costs don't have that horrific hike at year 5. Ask any other big name vendor, what happens in year 6? They've got to go to their bid desk and get you a new quote, because that point is where you're going to pay 40% more to support old hardware. We do not do that, so it's a very predictable support cost. But also, to make it even better, and this becomes a little bit like a mobile phone contract, every 3 years, with your flat support cost, we refresh the hardware. You will never ever have to buy a new array to replace the old one because the old one never gets old. At most, it will be 3 years old. And we do tech refreshes nearly every single year. So from this, once a customer's on Pure, they're on it for life. And it's very sticky in a nice way. We've always said happy customers buy more. And we support everything forever. We don't have warranties on it. If something fails in year 8, 9, 10, we replace it. No ifs, no buts, no questions. Doesn't matter how it failed, we will replace it. So there's a bridge, right? There's a divide in the cloud. There's on-premise and there's cloud. They're very different technologies. You look at on-premise storage, very sophisticated enterprise class. You look at storage in something like AWS, got to be blunt, it's a bit Mickey Mouse, right? It's not that good. You've got EBS and you've got S3. One's good at that, one's good at that. What do you use? It doesn't kind of integrate. So from this, the concept behind Pure, evolution, not revolution. The customer that bought this array, the data that's running on that is the same data running on this array in 2018. Not once have they had to do a data migration. I guarantee if you've not had Pure, you will have done at least 1 or 2 data migrations through that path. We also have FlashBlade, which addresses more of the high performance compute environment. So this really is big, fast, and simple, like some of our sales guys. But in essence, it's a scale-out architecture. So it's simple because it's one global namespace. It could be one IP address, holds up to about 8 petabytes of storage, and is insanely fast. But where FlashBlade comes into its own is consolidation of multiple environments. Each one of these environments traditionally would be a separate architecture. Oracle Exadata, Apache Spark, Splunk, all of these, a backup device would be separate architectures. Consolidating it all onto FlashBlade gives you what we call the data hub, right? Say goodbye to silos. Now, from a backup perspective, disk to tape. I'm sure some of you do this. To me, that sounds like Betamax to VHS to Laserdisc. Why the hell would you do this, right? Today, it's all about flash. So if I can go from flash to cloud, so my restores are 30 times faster than the fastest thing you can get on disk. plus I can use the cloud as long-term storage, then it starts to make a lot of sense. And again, bridging this cloud divide. We've got 16,000 of these out in the field. So the pure flash array, all block storage, we now have that running as a virtual piece of software in Amazon, and it is 100% identical. So if you want to move data from on-premise to the cloud without changing how you do things or the data format, this is what Pure provides. So it's exactly the same thing. And we can make the cloud better. We can make Amazon storage faster than Amazon. And this does live on their hardware, right? But we make it better. We can give you higher availability than what you'll get out of Amazon, because we can cluster between availability zones. And you're not going to over-provision. When you get 100 gig volume in Amazon, you pay for 100 gig whether you use it or not. With Pure, you pay for just what you use. And if you didn't spot, we do dedupe and compression. So a 60 gig database is 20 gig on the back end on Amazon. And we now do Pure as a service, a subscription model. So maybe you don't have the CapEx or you don't want to buy up front, we can now charge this out at pence per gigabyte. But we have one contract that would cover the cloud and cover on-premise. So in terms of what we're providing to customers, it is about making your applications faster. It is about enabling genuine multi-cloud. So the thing over here is the same in the cloud, giving you agility, modernizing your data protection, so it's just flash to cloud, and then building this data hub where you can consolidate multiple silos of infrastructure into one simple place. Thank you.
So who's familiar with DevNet? Just as I thought. Okay. So DevNet is probably one of Cisco's best kept secrets. But first of all, who am I? So I work at the CTO office in the UK. My name's Roger Dickinson. Oh, there we go. So my background is traditional infrastructure. 25 years blood and sweat with routing and switching. Pedro, my colleague here, far more glamorous. He used to work for Mercedes Formula One team and built autonomous vehicles for Mercedes. But part of our role in the CTO office is DevNet acceleration in the UK. So what does that actually mean? So we're actually, like all the solutions you've just seen, we're actually solving or helping to solve real customer problems. And we're providing enablement around these different areas, particularly when you look at the ever-changing application landscape, the ever-changing challenges when it comes to security. So if you think about your applications, you think about your applications in your business, how they're changing. They're being refactored, they're being moved to the cloud, they're being pushed to the edge. Some of them are now sitting in Docker, they're running on Kubernetes. Right? This puts a whole new set of challenges to IT to be able to deliver these. And then you think, well, all my applications are everywhere, they're all over the place. How do I secure all of these applications? Where are my security perimeters now? And we have this new security perimeter, which is identity. So it's no longer a firewall, it's actually your identity will allow you to access assets within the organisation. And these changes in themselves fundamentally change the requirements when it comes to the infrastructure and those hardware and software stacks that you're having to deliver within the data center and across those different clouds. And then finally, there's empowering your teams. So that could be, yes, it's collaboration tooling, but it's also empowering the teams to move away from those repetitive, day-to-day, mundane tasks to actually be more strategic and actually add more value to the business itself. So what are the implications then? If we're a traditional IT shop, what are the implications for IT when it comes to this new world of these new hardware and software stacks? Well, let's take, for example, the humble network engineer. So if you think of the skills you've needed for a network engineer over the last 20 years or so, you'd need to know things like routing protocols, BGP, OSPF. You'd need to understand those fundamental layer 2, layer 3 concepts. When it comes to platforms and programmability, maybe some basic scripts, maybe some tickle scripts when it comes to load balancing. But these were the fundamental skills that you needed. But what about today? The network engineer today needs to know about programmability. They need to know about things like model-driven programmability, netconf, yang, APIs, some basic Python scripting against REST APIs. These are all the new skills, and this is where DevNet comes in to enable traditional infrastructure teams to acquire these new skills. And then as we acquire these new skills, we become part of the wider teams within our customers. So things like you may have DevOps teams, you may have SRE, Site Reliability Engineering teams. You're either supporting those teams or you're now part of these teams. And they require these new skill sets. So this is what I call my operations matrix of death. So this is this can't really see it, but this is a hardware software stack within the data center. All these different abstractions from the tin all the way up to things like Kubernetes and service mesh. This is where the traditional networking engineers and infrastructure teams, they're going to move up the stack. The dev teams are not going to come down the stack. So this is where DevNet helps. So what we do in DevNet, we make innovation easy. So when we talk about making innovation easy, this is giving you the skills to build those modern hardware, software stacks across within your data centers and across those clouds. And also we interface directly with developers. So developers will actually build applications into Cisco infrastructures. So how do we enable you? So there's a number of things. So learning tracks. So this is all free, by the way, if you go to DevNet. Learning tracks is where you can do self-paced labs. You want to learn about ACI, how you can use a CNI plugin into Kubernetes. There's a self-paced lab and learning track for that. We also take those learning tracks and we package them up into things called the DevNet Express. DevNet Express is a 2-day instructor-led workshop. It's not your typical Cisco event. So it's all hands-on. You'll learn about things like open source tooling, and then you'll take that open source tooling and apply it against Cisco data center infrastructure. Sandbox, this is my personal favorite, is you want to, for example, you might want a C480ML UCS server to test how you operate them, to test your AI applications on them. Fire up a sandbox, have it for 6 hours, have it for 6 days. We have 70 different sandboxes across all different architectures that you can spin up on demand. And then DevNet Exchange. You may, I want an Ansible playlist to test against ACI. I may want a piece of Python code to test against NXOS. You go to Code Exchange, you go to Automation Exchange. You may need a partner who has those skills to deliver it. You go to Ecosystem Exchange. And then, if budget allowing, you could go to DevNet Create. So DevNet Create, think of it as a mini Cisco Live, but it's geared around programmability. It's geared around the developers, infrastructure developers, all the way up to app developers. And then if you thought we weren't serious about DevNet, we've just changed all of our certifications. So there's now a whole set of DevNet certifications you can get, which go all the way from the equivalent of a CCNA all the way to a CCIE in programmability. And they will be available from 2020. So if there's one thing, obviously we'll visit all the different booths, but go to developer.cisco.com. So this is the DevNet site, and sign up there and you'll get access to all of these resources which will enable you to enter this world of programmability. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for coming. Appreciate the weather's pretty shocking today, so thanks for coming over here. My name's Adam Bonney. I'm the CTO here at Natilic, and I'm unsurprisingly going to talk to you today a little bit about our DC infrastructure. More specifically around a platform we've developed that sits on top of that infrastructure and enables us to work in a more agile manner. So without further ado, maybe unoriginally, go on. Go back one. Oh, no. Okay, fine. maybe rather unoriginally, the platform is dubbed the Natilic platform. It is ultimately the culmination of a 2-year project that started as a capacity management project and ended up in us producing a platform that enabled us to move into new business opportunities, as well as, oh, okay, I see we're accelerating away now. Okay, fine. We'll just skip that and get on with this bit. So before I actually talk about what's involved in the platform, what technology we use under the hood, I just want to talk to you about what led us to the decision to create the platform in the first place. So back in FY17, we were starting to do some capacity planning, and we produced this graph. The little white block in the bottom corner is equivalent to 1 gig of RAM, and this shows our capacity growth over FY14, 15, 16, 17, and then onwards into FY 18 and 19. The key thing to pick out here is there's a significant change in our infrastructure usage between FY 15 and 16. And we need to understand why that was. So as we dug into it more, we realized there were two significant changes that drove that. The first one was a big uptake in the amount of VMware virtual machines we were producing, traditional VMware virtual machines designed to support our infrastructure. The other one was a lot of internally developed applications that were built on a containerization model. And our infrastructure was simply not designed to support containerization. So we set out three objectives. The first one was to create a highly scalable platform that would support VMware and containerization on one set of common infrastructure. The second was to make sure that infrastructure was easy to use. And the third was to make sure it was resilient. We were on a journey to 99.99% uptime, and we needed to make sure that the platform supported it. So what is the platform? The platform is essentially a hybrid cloud platform as a service that uses a range of DevOps tools to marry together best-of-breed compute, storage, and network infrastructure. If we have a look under the hood, starting with the DevOps tools we use internally, we use AppDynamics. I won't explain what that is. They did a great job of it. We're using Terraform to realize the concept of infrastructure as code and driving changes through our infrastructure in an immutable form. We're using Splunk to store our long-term logs from our infrastructure and apps. And we're using Type as our API gateway, similar to Apogee or Kong, which you may be familiar with, but some guys around the corner created it. We also use Consul for our service discovery, DNS load balancing, and health checks. GitLab provides our container registry, source code control, and CI/CD pipeline all wrapped up in one service. Cisco Intersight we'll come on to in a minute, and Ansible we use wherever we kind of can't use Terraform. So moving on, unsurprisingly, we use Cisco UCS for the compute element of our infrastructure. No real surprise there, I guess. But there is a tie back to Cisco Intersight here. We've recently put all of our Cisco UCS servers into Cisco Intersight, and that's enabled us to have a single pane of glass to monitor all of our servers, view their capacity management, roll out things like firmware upgrades, and also access the KVMs. Moving on to the storage component, we use Pure Storage for our primary storage. No real surprise there that we get a massive benefit from a all-flash array. But the big thing to call out here is that their inline deduplication and compression has given us a massive saving. Each of our Docker containers is deployed on an atomic CentOS image, and as that scaled over 100, 1,000 containers, we were using up a lot of storage space that we didn't need to. Cohesity is a new addition to our storage stack. Cohesity complements Pure really well in terms of their secondary storage, so we're using Pure for our primary, Cohesity for our secondary, storing things like our cold logs from Splunk and Cohesity, but also using it for our backup and backup as a service platform. From the network side, we're using Cisco ACI, again, somewhat unsurprisingly, but we have been using it since 2015. Its API-first approach has allowed us to use Terraform to automate ACI in an infrastructure as code way. So whenever our developers push out a new application, that's picked up by the pipeline and the network changes are automatically provisioned. So we're creating EPGs, application profiles, and all these things on the fly without a network engineer having to get involved. And lastly, in the network stack, we're also using Nginx Plus, recently acquired by F5. We use Nginx for our front-end load balancing, as well as integrating with OIDC for our security. Security is obviously something we shouldn't overlook. It's built into every portion of our platform. Starting with Cisco Umbrella at the DNS layer, then using OpenID Connect as a standard for all of our authentication. OIDC ties into Okta, so all of our users are synced into Okta. You can log into any of our applications, you're issued a token that's then valid across all of the rest of the platforms. Duo for our MFA, and whatever else was over here, it's gone. So we're all network engineers or infrastructure guys, so we probably like a good diagram. So this is an overall view of what our data centers currently look like, leveraging Cisco ACI, UCS, and Flash. So what does this actually mean for our end users? Because that's the outcome, right? We want to make it easier for our users to work in a more agile manner. So from a developer perspective, they get to spend more time in the applications they're used to. So working in VS Code or whatever their IDE is, working in GitLab or GitHub. And when they come to want to deploy an application, all they have to do is deploy a small piece of YAML code into their source code. That'll be automatically picked up by GitLab, and that application will be deployed across the platform, including automating any network changes, being picked up automatically in service discovery, and deploying any virtual machines that are needed to support that application. So our infrastructure engineers and our developers get to spend more time doing what they want to spend more time doing what they're good at, and less time doing mundane automated tasks. So I guess the last slide I'd just like to share with you is this is our showcase. I'm sure some of you may have been in it and seen some of the great stuff that Mateus is doing. But if you're interested in any of these DevOps things we've spoken about today, automation in ACI, provisioning in VMware, just give Mateus a shout. He's running some awesome showcases, especially around Terraform and App Dynamics. So that's it. Everyone,
I think it's then just left for me to obviously say a massive thank you to all of you guys for coming and to all the presenters. If you think it's easy to do, it really is not easy to do. I would task your sales teams or your colleagues to have a go at doing it. Just to say, I put myself on a timer as well. From this event, we have raised £1,500 for Great Ormond Street Hospital. So a big thank you to all of our partners that chipped in and kind of made that possible. So it's really nice for us to be able to have that little bit of extra giving back when we run events like this. And lastly, a little marketing push from myself. What's coming next? Hopefully you enjoyed this event, as it is. But we also have lots of events going on across all the different like architecture stacks here at Natillic, running from contact center DevOps demos that we're doing, security, next generation firewall events with Cisco. We are actually hosting a DevNet Express here at Natillic in October on the 15th and 16th. So we are the first and only DevNet Express partner in the UK. So if you want to attend DevNet Express events in London, you want to come to us. The next one will be on DNA. So give us a shout if you want to come along, and the registration is open now. We also are having a collaboration breakfast with some of the guys we'll be talking about what they're doing, Jazzy and the DevOps World for Collab. And on the 30th of October, we have our Wi-Fi ninjas, if you may have heard of them, Matt and Mac, coming to do a breakfast all about RTLS and locational Wi-Fi. So I'll leave this slide up here for a little bit if you guys want to take a photo, but it will be on our website if you want to have a look. So thanks so much again for coming, and please go have a chat with everybody around the room. I'm sure there will be lots of buzzing questions. Thank you.